The wind had been howling for hours, a deep, mournful sound that made the pine trees outside Evan Grant's cabin bow like old men struggling to stand upright. Snow hurled itself sideways across the yard, turning the world into a white blur. Winter storms weren't unusual this far out in northern Montana, but tonight's felt different, angrier, heavier, almost personal. Inside the small cabin, the lights flickered as Evan hunched over the dining table, a half-finished stack of paperwork scattered in front of him. He pushed his glasses up on the bridge of his nose, squinting at the faded blueprint of a ranch project he was supposed to deliver by morning. His coffee had gone cold 2 hours ago, and his eyelids felt like sandpaper. "That's it," he muttered to himself, tossing the pencil aside. "I'm done." He leaned back, rubbing his temples as thunder rumbled somewhere deep inside the storm clouds. The cabin groaned. A shutter slammed once, twice, then stayed still. Evan sighed. He loved living alone out here, but storms like this always reminded him just how small he was in the middle of so much wilderness. He stood, stretched, and walked toward the kitchen to heat his coffee, and that's when he heard it. A sound so faint he almost mistook it for the storm. Scratch, scratch, scratch. A tiny, frantic scrape against wood. He froze, mug halfway to the counter. The cabin had no neighbors for miles. No one would be outside at this hour. Maybe it was a branch, a raccoon. Scratch, whine. A soft, trembling whimper cut through the wind. Evan's breath hitched. "That's a dog," he whispered. The sound came again, desperate, weak. He grabbed a flashlight, heart thumping faster with every step toward the front door. The storm roared louder the closer he got, as if warning him not to open it. But the whine, that broke him. He couldn't ignore that. He unlatched the door, bracing his shoulder to keep it from slamming open in the wind. The moment the door cracked, a blast of icy air punched into his face. Snow swirled inside, coating the floor instantly. He winced through the blinding white, lifting the flashlight. "Hello," he called out above the storm. "Who's out?" The beam of light caught something small moving on the porch. Then he saw her. A German shepherd, soaked, trembling so violently her teeth chattered. She stood there on unsteady legs, fur plastered to her ribs, eyes wide and frantic in the harsh light. Between her shaking legs, curled tight against her belly, were 4 tiny puppies, their whimpers barely audible over the wind. Evan's heart stopped. "Oh my God!" The mother dog lifted her head, meeting his eyes with a look he would never forget, a look filled with desperation, fear, exhaustion, and something almost human, a plea for mercy. She wasn't barking, she wasn't aggressive, she wasn't even moving much. She was begging. He dropped to his knees, ignoring the cold biting into his skin. Hey, it's okay," he whispered. "Come here, come inside." The shepherd tried to take a step forward, but her legs buckled. She collapsed with a soft thud, curling protectively around the puppies who squeaked at the sudden jolt. No, Evan scrambled toward her, sliding on the icy wood. "You're okay, I've got you." He scooped the nearly frozen puppies in his jacket and quickly ushered the mother across the threshold. She stumbled inside, her claws scraping weakly against the floor. The second she crossed into the warmth, her body sagged in relief. Evan shut the door behind them and cranked the heater to the highest setting. "There you go, you're safe now." He laid towels down, placing the puppies near the heater first. They were tiny, too tiny, and shivered beneath his jacket as their mother crawled toward them. She nudged each one gently, whining low in her throat. Only once she made sure they were all there did she collapse beside them, breathing in short, ragged bursts. Evan knelt beside her, wanting to comfort her but careful not to overwhelm her. "You're a good girl," he murmured. "You got them here. You did everything right." The dog lifted her eyes to him again, and that's when he noticed it. A reflective glint around her neck. Not a normal dog tag. This was small, rectangular, metallic, attached with zip tie, like straps instead of a collar. It looked too heavy for her thin frame. "What is this?" he whispered. He reached forward slowly, letting her sniff his hand first. Surprisingly, she didn't pull away. If anything, she leaned toward him, exhausted beyond resistance. He rotated the device gently. It wasn't a normal tag at all. It was a tracker. Smooth metal, no name, no phone number, no cute engraving. Just a hard, cold device with a tiny circular lens on the front. His stomach dropped. This isn't normal. He brought it closer to his face, brushing away the snow that had crusted onto it. Under the grime, he saw an imprint, faint but unmistakable. A serial number, 3 letters, 4 digits. And something else. The tiniest LED light, dark, dead, lifeless. Until the second his finger brushed the side. Click. The LED blinked to life. Not green. Not yellow. Red. A sharp beep chirped from inside the device, startling the puppies. The shepherd jerked her head up, fear flashing in her eyes. "Whoa, easy," Evan said quickly, pulling his hand away. "It's okay, I didn't mean to." But she wasn't reacting to him. She was reacting to the device. Her ears flattened, her tail curled under her, her entire body hunched in terror. Whatever that red light meant, she'd seen it before. "What happened to you?" Evan whispered, voice barely audible over the storm. The dog backed away from the blinking tag, not violently, but with the trembling horror of someone who knows what comes after. Evan swallowed hard. He didn't know much about tracking devices, but he knew one thing. Red lights meant activation. And activated trackers meant someone or something was receiving a signal. His pulse hammered. "Who's looking for you?" he whispered. The dog flinched at another beep from the tag. Outside, the wind shifted suddenly, like something large was moving through the storm. And then, in the distance, faint through the roaring snow, Evan saw it. 2 headlights. Not drifting. Not sliding on the icy road. Moving slowly. Deliberately. Straight toward his cabin. The shepherd's ears perked up, her body shaking harder than before, not from the cold, but from fear of whoever had just found her. Evan turned off the flashlight, heart thundering in his chest. "What the hell did you run from?" he whispered as the headlights grew closer. The mother dog didn't answer, of course. She just stared at the door. And whimpered. The headlights of the approaching car cut through the blizzard like twin searchlights. Evan froze in the cabin, the German shepherd pressed close against his legs, trembling but alert. Her eyes darted to the door, back to him, then down at the pups, as if calculating every possibility. Every muscle in her body was taut, a coiled spring ready to protect. Evan's mind raced. Who would be out in this storm? Who would come after a dog and her puppies in the middle of nowhere? The mother dog let out a low growl, almost a vibration in the air itself. It wasn't loud, but it was warning enough. Her hackles were raised, her tail tucked low, but her eyes burned with a feral intelligence. Evan swallowed hard. "It's okay, girl, I've got you," he whispered, though he wasn't sure if he meant himself or her. He backed slowly toward the kitchen, grabbed a few towels and wrapped the puppies one by one. Their little bodies were icy cold, shivering against his chest. He laid them near the space heater, and the mother immediately pressed herself over them, curling her body like a living shield. Evan's eyes flicked to the device on her neck. That red light was still blinking faintly. He crouched down and examined it carefully. It wasn't a GPS tag you'd see on a normal dog. It looked military-grade, industrial, expensive, purposeful, and now active. Someone knew exactly where she was. He tapped the device lightly with his finger. The red light blinked faster, as if responding. The German shepherd flinched violently, ears flat against her skull. She gave a soft, warning bark, then crouched lower over the pups. Evan froze. He had no idea what he had just activated, or if activating it had just sent a signal to whoever was hunting her. Outside, the car's engine hummed steadily, the kind of low, deliberate sound that didn't belong to a lost traveler. This was someone who knew what they were doing, someone patient, and someone who was coming straight for the cabin. The storm roared louder. Snow whipped against the windows in sheets, pounding the glass like drumbeats. Evan could hear nothing else over the wind, but he could feel it, the tension outside. Every nerve in his body screamed that this was not a normal encounter. He tried to think, call the police. No, he barely had cell service out here. Hide. The cabin was small. Fight. He had no weapon, no backup, and no idea who was out there. The mother dog let out another low growl, sharper this time. She was warning him, warning them, about something Evan couldn't yet see. He realized she was not only protecting her puppies but anticipating the threat outside better than he could. He reached slowly for his old rifle tucked in the corner. It was dusty, barely maintained, but it was something. The dog flinched at the movement as if telling him, "Be careful. This isn't a game." Evan glanced back at the pups, tiny, defenseless, shivering under the heater's warmth. Their eyes were half closed, trusting him completely. He had to protect them. The sound outside changed. The car had stopped. Headlights swept the yard, lingering, searching, and then the scrape of boots across snow, slow, measured, approaching the porch. Evan's stomach twisted. They're here. He crouched behind the counter, rifle ready, heart hammering in his chest. The German shepherd pressed closer to him, her body vibrating with tension. He reached out, and she nuzzled his hand briefly before pulling back, ears flat, eyes locked on the door. The knocking came next, slow, methodical, a single firm rap that made Evan's blood run cold. "Sir," a voice called through the storm, smooth and controlled. "I'm looking for a dog, large shepherd. She's dangerous. I need to retrieve her." "Dangerous?" Evan froze. The German shepherd stiffened. Her teeth bared just slightly, lips curling, growling low in her throat. Her gaze never left the door. He swallowed hard. "What's the device on her collar?" he asked, keeping his voice calm, though every instinct screamed at him not to answer. The man's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Just part of her training," he said. "I'm authorized to pick her up. You won't want any trouble." Authorized, that word felt wrong, wrong and heavy, like a warning. Evan gripped the rifle tighter. "I don't know what you mean, but she isn't going anywhere. Not tonight." There was silence for a moment. Then a subtle, almost imperceptible beeping came from the tracker. Evan's heart sank. The German shepherd reacted instantly. She barked, low and feral, a sound that shook the wooden walls. Her teeth glinted in the dim light. She lunged a few steps toward the door, not aggressively toward Evan, but toward the threat outside. The man's eyes flickered, annoyed, almost surprised. "She's property," he snapped, "and I'm taking her back." Evan's blood ran cold. Property. There was no way a dog this desperate, this protective, could ever be property. Something darker lurked here, and he felt it in the pit of his stomach. The German shepherd barked again, higher now, a piercing sound that cut through the storm like a blade. Her body trembled with fear and rage, curled protectively around her puppies. Evan raised his hand slowly. "I don't know who you are," he said, "but you're not getting anywhere near these puppies." The man pressed his scanner against the glass. It beeped loudly, almost accusingly. Evan realized then the device wasn't just a tracker, it was a signal. Someone had been watching, waiting, and now they knew where she was. The shepherd flinched at another beep. Her eyes were wide, pupils dilated, and she crouched lower, growling at the door with a ferocity Evan had never heard. It was pure instinct, pure survival, pure terror. Evan's mind raced. He couldn't just leave her here, not in the middle of this storm, not with someone out there capable of tracking her so precisely. He thought quickly, his pulse pounding. He looked at the pups again, tiny, helpless, eyes half closed, trusting him completely. The sight hardened his resolve. Whoever this man was, Evan was not letting him take these dogs, not tonight. He grabbed a blanket and tossed it over the mother's back, gently but firmly. "Come on," he whispered. "We're moving." The German shepherd hesitated, ears flicking toward the door, growling softly. But then, with a deep, resigned breath, she pressed her body against Evan. As he scooped her up, the pups safely wrapped in towels. The wind outside intensified, rattling the windows like giant fingers against the glass. The headlights outside shifted, then disappeared for a moment, as if the man was circling the cabin. Evan's stomach sank. This is far from over. He pressed the dogs close, moving to the back room of the cabin. It was small, cluttered, but at least hidden from view. The German shepherd lowered herself gently to the floor, curling around her puppies again. Her eyes never left the door. Evan sank to the floor beside her, heart racing, mind spinning. Whoever this man was, he was not ordinary. The tracker alone suggested money, power, or something illegal. And the mother's fear, her knowledge of the device, hinted at a life far darker than Evan could imagine. Outside, the wind screamed like a living thing. The car engine growled faintly, searching. The faint crunch of boots against snow reached Evan's ears intermittently. They were out there, watching, waiting. The German shepherd rested her head on her paws, eyes still scanning, ears twitching at every sound. The pups whimpered softly, nestled against her belly, oblivious to the danger. Evan rubbed his face, trying to steady his shaking hands. He had no idea what he had stumbled into. No idea how many people were involved, or what horrors this dog had survived. All he knew was one undeniable truth. He couldn't leave them here. And then, as if the storm itself had delivered the final warning, a single sharp knock sounded on the back door. Not hesitant, not questioning, deliberate. The German shepherd growled low in her throat, curling tighter around the puppies. Evan's heart skipped a beat. Whoever it was, they weren't leaving without them. Evan's mind screamed, "This is only the beginning." And in that moment, the mother dog lifted her head, eyes locked with his, as if silently saying, "Be ready. We're not safe yet." Wind howled. The storm raged. And outside, the footsteps returned, crunching steadily across the snow toward the cabin. The storm had grown louder, more violent, as if it had sensed the tension inside the cabin. Each gust of wind rattled the windows like skeletal fingers scratching at the walls. The German shepherd remained pressed to Evan's side, tense and alert, her sharp eyes flicking toward the back door where the knock had sounded. Her growl was low, vibrating in her chest, almost human in its intensity. The pups squirmed beneath her, tiny bodies trembling, too young to understand the danger they were in. Evan swallowed hard, his heart hammering like a drum. He had never felt this level of fear in his life, not even when hiking alone in the mountains or facing a near-car accident on icy roads. There was something different about this. This wasn't ordinary danger. This wasn't random. Whoever was outside knew exactly what they were doing. He glanced at the tracker blinking red on the mother's collar. Whoever had attached it had a purpose, and now that purpose had been activated. Someone was coming for her, and they wouldn't stop until they got what they wanted. Another rap on the back door, this time louder, more forceful. Evan instinctively pressed his back against the wall, trying to stay out of view, rifle clutched tightly in his hands. "Sir," a calm, controlled voice called over the storm. "I'm authorized to retrieve a dog inside. Please open the door." Evan's stomach twisted. Authorized. He didn't feel like he was dealing with anything legitimate. Every instinct screamed danger. The German shepherd bristled, ears flat against her skull, tail tucked low but vibrating with tension. She growled louder this time, a warning that made Evan flinch. Her teeth glinted in the dim light. It wasn't a normal dog growl. It was a primal protective sound, a signal that she would do anything to defend her puppies. Evan's mind raced. He had a decision to make. Open the door and face this intruder. Hide and hope he went away, or escape into the woods with the dog and her pups, risking the storm and the unknown terrain. Before he could decide, the man outside spoke again. "Listen, I don't want to hurt anyone. That dog belongs to me. Open the door and this ends peacefully." The German shepherd's growl turned into a low, vibrating snarl. She shifted closer to Evan, pressing her body against his legs. He could feel the tension radiating off her like electricity. "No," Evan said firmly. "She doesn't belong to anyone. Not to you, not to anyone, and she's not leaving." Another sharp knock rattled the doorframe. This time the man's voice grew harsher. "You don't understand. That dog is dangerous. I must have her." The German shepherd lunged slightly, snapping the air near the door. Evan grabbed her by the shoulders, trying to calm her, but he could feel the raw power beneath her thin frame. Her muscles were coiled, ready to spring, driven by instinct and terror. Evan's mind raced. What is she running from? The tracker, the man, it had to be more than just theft. He could sense it in the dog's fear, in the way she reacted to the red blinking light, in the way her body tensed for battle. Suddenly, the sound of metal scraping against wood made Evan's blood run cold. The man had tried the window. Snow and ice fell onto the floor as a pane rattled violently. The German shepherd leapt toward it, growling ferociously, making the intruder hesitate. "Stay back," Evan shouted. "I'm warning you." But the man didn't move. Calmly, almost arrogantly, he stepped back into the storm. Then, from the shadows, he raised a handheld scanner and held it over the collar. Beep, beep, beep. The tracker responded, faint red lights pulsing faster, almost like a heartbeat. The German shepherd flinched at every beep, whining softly. Her eyes were wide, pupils dilated. Evan realized in that moment, she knew what the device meant. This wasn't just tracking. It was a signal, a call. Whoever this man was, the red blinking light had summoned him. Evan's pulse raced. This isn't just about a dog, this is something bigger, something dangerous. He backed toward the stairs, trying to put the pups and the mother dog in a safer position, toward the small back room where they could be somewhat hidden. The wind outside howled through broken windows, the storm now a living thing threatening to tear the cabin apart. The man's voice cut through the chaos again, sharper this time. "Open the door or I will come in. You don't know what you're dealing with." The German shepherd pressed her body closer to Evan, whining, ears flat, eyes darting toward the door. Her body shook violently, not just from cold but from fear and anticipation. Evan swallowed hard. He had no weapon that could stop someone who clearly had planned this. All he had was his wits, the rifle, and a dog that seemed to understand the danger far better than he did. The man knocked again. Then, without warning, he started speaking directly into the cabin. "You've got no idea what this dog has seen, what she's survived. Let her go." Evan froze. The words chilled him. Survived what? The trackers, the pursuit, the fear in her eyes, everything suggested a past he couldn't yet comprehend. He looked at the pups, tiny, defenseless, utterly reliant on him, and he looked at the German shepherd. Despite her exhaustion, despite the shaking and shivering, she was ready to fight, to protect them, to face whatever came through that door. A sudden crash echoed from the porch. Snow fell from the roof. The door rattled violently. Evan gripped the rifle tighter, heart hammering. The man was testing the limits, probing the defenses, seeing how far he could push before breaking through. The German shepherd barked, a long, furious sound, teeth bared, a warning that shook the cabin. She circled the pups protectively, low growls vibrating in her chest. Evan realized then she wasn't just afraid. She was calculating. She knew instinctively that the danger was coming from outside, but she also knew she had him as an ally, or at least, she trusted that he could fight alongside her. Another knock, louder, more insistent, and then words that froze Evan to his core. "I know you have her. I can see her inside. Open the door or there will be consequences." Evan's throat tightened. Consequences. He had no idea what that meant, no idea what this man had planned. All he knew was one undeniable truth. If that man got inside, the German shepherd and her puppies were in immediate danger. The dog growled again, louder now, a low, guttural sound that resonated through the cabin. She lunged slightly toward the door, her teeth flashing in the dim light. Evan caught her, holding her back, whispering softly to calm her. Then, without warning, the scanner beeped again. Red pulses, faster now. The German shepherd froze, ears twitching violently. She looked at Evan, eyes wide, then back at the door. She knew someone or something was coming, and she knew they were close. Evan's blood ran cold. He realized in that moment this wasn't just a man. Whoever had sent him was watching, waiting. This was far bigger than he had imagined. And then he heard it, a faint crunch of boots through the snow outside. Slow, deliberate, approaching the cabin. Each step was measured, careful, as if the person walking knew exactly where to step to avoid being heard, but not enough to evade a dog trained to detect danger. The German shepherd's body tensed completely. She pressed herself over the pups, every muscle coiled. Evan could feel her trembling, not from cold, but from fear and anticipation. The storm outside screamed around them. The wind rattled the windows, ice cracking along the edges, and the cabin, small and fragile, became a fortress under siege. Evan's heart raced. He knew one thing for certain. Whoever was out there wasn't just trying to retrieve a dog. They were here to take control. And if they got in, he had no idea if he or the dogs would make it out alive. The German shepherd growled low and long. Her body shook violently, but she didn't move from her protective stance over the pups. She was ready. Evan swallowed hard. This was far from over. The storm outside was nothing compared to the storm that had just arrived at his door. And then, as if to punctuate the danger, the man's voice came again, colder, sharper, more threatening. "You're out of time. Open the door now." The German shepherd's growl escalated into a deep, menacing snarl. She stepped forward slightly, a warning Evan could feel in his bones. He knew one thing: if this man came through that door, there would be blood. Evan gripped the rifle tighter. The pups whimpered. The storm raged outside, and in the freezing, dark cabin, a tense, unspoken battle had begun. The storm outside raged like a living thing, rattling the cabin walls and driving snow through cracks in the eaves. Inside, Evan's small living room felt like a battleground. The German shepherd pressed tightly against his legs, growling low and protective, her eyes never leaving the back door. The 4 tiny puppies huddled beneath her belly, whimpering softly, oblivious to the danger that loomed outside and threatened to break through any second. Another knock, harder this time, more insistent. The man outside didn't just want the dog, he demanded it. Evan gripped the rifle tighter, knuckles white. "I'm warning you," he said, his voice steady but low. "She isn't going anywhere." A metallic click sounded faintly from the back porch. The man was testing the door, trying the lock, trying to force entry. The German shepherd stiffened, muscles coiling like springs ready to snap. Her growl escalated, a low, guttural rumble that made Evan's skin crawl. The man's voice cut through the wind, calm but dangerously firm. "I'm just looking for what's mine. That dog belongs to me. Open the door and we can resolve this without anyone getting hurt." Evan felt a chill run down his spine. Belongs to him. The dog was scared, thin, and barely able to stand. She had her pups, barely surviving the storm. Whatever ownership this man claimed was twisted, and Evan could feel it in the pit of his stomach. There was history here, dark history. The German shepherd pressed closer to him, shivering violently, not from cold but from terror. She lifted her snout, sniffed the air, and let out a low, warning growl, each note vibrating like a drumbeat through the cabin floor. Evan's mind raced. There was no way he could reason with this man outside. He had no way to call for help. The storm had killed the cell signal, and he couldn't run, not with the pups. Another metallic scrape sounded. The man had tried the window. Snow and ice fell onto the floor as the pane rattled. The German shepherd snapped at it, barking ferociously. Evan realized this wasn't just a man trying to retrieve a dog. This was someone trained, patient, calculated. He backed toward the stairs, moving the German shepherd and her pups to the small back room, a makeshift storage area with a sturdy door. It wasn't much, but it provided some cover. The mother dog followed, stepping cautiously, ears flat but eyes blazing. She pressed herself over the pups, her body trembling, yet poised and ready to fight. The man's voice came again, closer this time, almost as if he had moved around the cabin to find another angle. "You don't understand," he said, calm and controlled. "That dog is dangerous. She has skills you can't imagine. You could get hurt if you try to stop me." Evan's heart raced. "I don't care," he shouted. "She isn't going anywhere, not with you, not tonight." The German shepherd's ears twitched. She growled, a low, warning sound, then stepped slightly in front of Evan, as if to physically block him from exposing himself to the door. It was clear she understood the threat far better than he did. Another knock, this time louder and followed by a metallic tapping. The man was persistent, deliberate. He wasn't bluffing. Evan's pulse hammered in his ears. He had no idea what this man wanted beyond the dog, but it was enough to drive him to the edge. He gripped the rifle tighter, scanning the room for any weak points the intruder could exploit. Every window, every door, every crack in the cabin felt like a potential breach. Suddenly, the scanner beeped again from the tracker, a faint, rhythmic pulse of red light. The German shepherd froze, muscles taut, ears perked, eyes wide. She knew. She understood something Evan didn't. The signal had activated something. Someone or something was watching, waiting. The man's voice came again, sharper this time. "Open the door, now, don't make me come in." The German shepherd stepped in front of the pups, baring her teeth. Evan swallowed hard. He realized then that if the man crossed this threshold, there would be no negotiation. There would be violence, and he didn't know if he could stop it. He looked at the pups, tiny, shivering, defenseless, and at the mother dog, exhausted yet unwavering, a warrior protecting her family. His jaw tightened. He couldn't let them be taken. The man's voice softened slightly, almost mockingly. "I don't want to hurt anyone. Just open the door and hand her over. She's mine." Evan's hands shook, but he didn't lower the rifle. "You're not taking her," he said. "I won't let you, not tonight." The German shepherd growled louder, a deep, resonant sound that shook the floorboards. Then she did something Evan didn't expect. She lunged toward the door, teeth bared, barking fiercely. It was more than a threat, it was a declaration. She wasn't leaving, and she wouldn't allow anyone to take her pups. The man cursed under his breath outside. "Fine," he said coldly, "if that's the way you want it." Before Evan could react, a loud thud shook the cabin. The back door rattled violently. Someone or something was trying to force it open. Snow and splintered wood flew across the floor. The German shepherd leapt forward, snapping at the door, her body a coiled spring of raw power and fury. Evan held her back, whispering urgently, "Easy, don't let him in." The man's voice came again, raised, almost shouting now. "I warned you, open the door." The German shepherd growled even louder, teeth flashing, eyes blazing. Evan realized she wasn't afraid of him. She was angry, protective, and ready to defend her family. Her instincts were razor-sharp. She had survived horrors he couldn't begin to imagine, and she knew instinctively that this man was not here for anything good. The door shuddered again under the force. Snow spilled inside, icy shards cutting into Evan's skin. The man outside cursed, frustrated. The storm's roar mixed with the dog's growls and the shouts, creating a chaotic symphony of fear and defiance. Then silence. Evan froze. The German shepherd pressed herself closer to him, ears flat, tail low but trembling. She sniffed the air, listening. A faint movement outside, footsteps retreating then circling. The man wasn't gone, he was maneuvering, looking for another way in. Evan's pulse raced. He had no idea how many people were involved. no idea how far-reaching the danger was. All he knew was that the German Shepherd had survived worse. She knew how to fight, and she had chosen to trust him. The storm continued to batter the cabin, relentless. But inside, something else had begun, a battle of wills. Between Evan, the mother dog, and whatever force outside dared to come for them. The German Shepherd pressed herself over the puppies again, growling softly, eyes never leaving the back door. She wasn't just a dog. She was a guardian, a fighter, and Evan realized she would stop at nothing to protect her family. The man outside spoke one last time, voice low and cold. "You'll regret this. I will find a way in." Evan's heart pounded. He looked at the mother dog, her eyes meeting his. They shared a silent understanding. Whatever came next, they faced it together. The storm howled. The door rattled. And in that moment the cabin became more than wood and nails. It was a sanctuary, a fortress. And inside, a mother and her pups waited, ready to fight. The snow continued to swirl, covering tracks, hiding threats, and concealing dangers. Outside, the man's footsteps receded slightly, but the tension remained. He was out there, watching, waiting, and he would return. Evan took a deep breath, gripping the rifle tighter. He knew one thing for certain: tonight was far from over. And the German Shepherd, her body coiled around her pups, growling softly, seemed to know it too. The storm had become a living, suffocating wall around Evan's cabin, the wind screaming through every crack, rattling the thin wooden walls as though trying to tear the shelter apart. Inside, Evan crouched low, rifle in hand, eyes locked on the back door. The German Shepherd pressed against him, trembling violently, but every muscle coiled, ready to strike. The puppies whined softly beneath her belly, shivering but alive, clinging to her warmth. Evan's mind raced. Whoever was outside wasn't just after a dog. They were trained, patient, and dangerous. The tracker on the German Shepherd's neck still blinked red, a rhythmic pulse that seemed to echo the pounding of Evan's own heart. Each pulse carried a message. Someone was watching, waiting, tracking, and they were closing in. The sound of footsteps crunching in the snow outside made him flinch. Slow, measured, methodical. Whoever this person or people were, they knew exactly where to tread. Evan realized with a chill that the intruder wasn't alone. That first man might have been a scout, a hunter, or a signal. There was likely more waiting in the storm, silent, invisible, patient. The German Shepherd's ears twitched at each sound. She lifted her head, scanning the room, then back at Evan. Her eyes held something that went beyond fear, a deep knowing intelligence. She had survived something far worse than a storm, far worse than an angry intruder knocking at the door. Her muscles tensed. She growled, low and vibrating through the floorboards. Evan swallowed hard. He knew the dog was telling him to be ready, that this night was going to change everything. Another crash rang out, louder this time. Snow and ice fell onto the floor as the man outside tested the back door again. The German Shepherd lunged forward instinctively, snapping at the door with teeth that gleamed in the dim cabin light. Evan grabbed her by the shoulders, whispering urgently, "Easy, easy. Don't let him in." But it wasn't just a test. The lock splintered. Wood cracked. The door shuddered violently, then gave way slightly under the weight of a forceful push. Snow and shards of ice spilled into the room, mixing with the dust from the broken wood. Evan's heart leapt into his throat. The intruder was breaking in. The German Shepherd leapt protectively over the puppies, teeth bared, growling a feral, guttural warning. Her body shook violently, not from fear, but from anticipation. She had no intention of letting anyone harm her family. Evan held her back, his fingers pressing into her shoulders as he whispered, "We can do this. Stay calm." The door splintered further. A shadow moved across the threshold, a tall figure in a dark coat, hood pulled low. The man froze for a moment, scanning the room, then stepped fully inside. Snow and ice scattered across the floor. The wind howled behind him, but inside, silence fell like a weight. The German Shepherd snarled, ears flat, muscles taut. Evan raised his rifle slowly, hand trembling. "Stay back," he shouted. The man's eyes narrowed. I warned you, he said, voice calm but cold. That dog belongs to me. Step aside and this ends peacefully. Evan's pulse raced. She's not yours, he said, voice firm. I won't let you take her, not tonight. The intruder's lips twisted in a smirk. You have no idea what you're holding onto, he said, glancing at the tracker blinking red on the German shepherd's neck. Do you know what that is? Evan shook his head, eyes darting between the man and the dog. Some kind of device. The man stepped closer, scanning the tracker with a small handheld scanner. Not just a device, he said. This is evidence, proof, and you just activated it. The German shepherd stiffened, ears pricked, tail low but trembling. She pressed herself closer to Evan, as if sensing the meaning behind the man's words. Evan's stomach twisted. Evidence of what? The man's expression darkened. Illegal breeding, trafficking, torture. That dog, she survived horrors you couldn't imagine, and now you're sitting in the middle of it. Evan's blood ran cold. His eyes darted to the German shepherd. She didn't flinch at the man. If anything, she seemed to recognize him, or at least sense the truth in his words. Her eyes, wide and terrified, reflected memories she couldn't speak. Before Evan could react, the intruder reached toward the dog. The German shepherd snapped, teeth flashing inches from his fingers. Evan stepped forward, raising his rifle. Don't you dare, he shouted. The man froze, then slowly backed off, raising his hands in mock surrender. I'm not here to hurt you yet, he said. I just need her. Evan's mind raced. Need her. The way the man spoke, the tracker, the red blinking light, it was clear. This dog was more than a pet. She was part of something far larger, something sinister. He glanced at the puppies. Tiny, defenseless, shivering. The thought of them in the hands of this man made his stomach churn. He couldn't let that happen. Suddenly, another sound came from outside, the crunch of boots, faster this time, closer to the cabin. The intruder's eyes flicked toward the window. You think you're alone, he hissed. You're not. The German shepherd growled low, a warning rumble that vibrated through Evan's bones. She pressed herself over the puppies, eyes flashing with primal intelligence. Evan realized she had lived through something far worse than this storm, far worse than a man with a scanner. She understood danger on a level humans couldn't comprehend. Evan backed toward the small back room, guiding the dog and her pups with gentle but firm pressure. This way, he whispered. Safe, okay, we're okay. The intruder stepped forward, scanning the room with a predatory gaze. Do you have any idea what I've been through to find her? He asked. She escaped a raid, one of the few to survive, and now you're hiding her, just like everyone else who's tried to stop me. Evan's pulse raced. Stop, he shouted. I don't know what you're talking about. The German shepherd let out a warning bark, low and terrifying. She lunged at the intruder again, forcing him back a step. Snow fell from his coat as he stumbled, caught off guard by the dog's raw power and determination. Evan took a deep breath. He realized then that the dog wasn't just protecting her puppies, she was trying to protect him too. She had assessed the threat and chosen him as an ally, someone to fight alongside. The intruder cursed under his breath, backing toward the door. You don't understand, he said, voice cold. She's part of evidence, and now you've made things more complicated. Evan's stomach twisted. Evidence of what? The man's lips pressed into a thin line. Animal cruelty, illegal trafficking, some of the worst cases we've ever documented. That dog, she survived it all. And now, thanks to you, she's alive and you've made yourself a target. The German shepherd pressed closer to Evan, ears flat, tail low but quivering. She growled, a low, warning rumble that shook the room. Her body language was clear. She was done running, done hiding. She would fight. The intruder's expression shifted, frustration and anger mixing with fear. You have no idea what you're holding, he said, and you'll regret it. Then just as suddenly, another sound pierced the storm. A vehicle approaching down the snow-covered road, headlights cutting through the blizzard. The intruder froze, scanning the darkness outside. Evan realized in that moment he was not alone. Help was coming, or at least someone else was aware of the situation. The German shepherd stiffened, ears pricked. She pressed herself over the pups, eyes alert. She seemed to understand that this was not over, but that reinforcements might be near. The intruder cursed under his breath, retreating toward the door. "This isn't finished," he said, voice low and dangerous. "I'll be back, and next time you won't be able to stop me." Evan watched as the man disappeared into the storm, leaving a trail of snow and chaos behind. The tracker on the dog's neck continued blinking red, a silent reminder of the danger that still loomed. The German shepherd let out a soft whine, pressing her head against Evan's chest. The puppies stirred beneath her, tiny bodies trembling. Evan held them close, heart racing. He had no idea what he had stumbled into, no idea how far-reaching the danger was, and no idea what horrors this dog had survived. All he knew was one undeniable truth: he couldn't leave them here. Not now, not ever. Outside, the storm howled, the snow masking tracks, hiding threats, concealing dangers. Inside, a mother and her pups huddled together, guarded by a man who had just glimpsed the dark world they had escaped, and by a dog whose courage and intelligence had saved them all for now. The storm had grown even more relentless. Snow lashed against the cabin like icy whips, wind shrieking through the eaves. The night felt endless, suffocating. Evan crouched low in the back room, heart pounding, clutching the rifle as the German shepherd pressed tightly against his side. Her fur was wet and matted, ribs showing through thin skin, but her eyes burned with a fierce determination. She was ready for anything, and she had taught Evan to be ready too. The 4 puppies nestled beneath her, tiny whimpers escaping as they shivered. They were fragile, vulnerable, yet the mother's presence created a protective barrier between them and the dark world outside. Evan's mind raced. Whoever the man was outside, he was not alone. He had seen the headlights approaching, the deliberate, measured footsteps. Someone else had joined the hunt. This wasn't a man looking for a lost dog. It was a predator, with resources, with intent, and likely with backup. Suddenly, another sound shattered the fragile silence. A metallic scraping against the front window. Snow and ice cascaded into the room, and the German shepherd lunged forward instinctively, teeth flashing, hackles raised. She growled low and menacingly, a sound that vibrated through Evan's bones. He held her back, whispering urgently, "Easy, stay with the pups." But she didn't waver. Her eyes never left the intrusion, her body taut with coiled energy. Another crash followed. This time it came from the side of the cabin. The intruder's backup had arrived. Evan's stomach sank. He was outnumbered, outmatched, and utterly unprepared for what was about to come. The storm outside seemed to grow louder, almost alive, as if it had sensed the escalating tension. Footsteps in the snow moved rapidly now, circling the cabin. The sound of shoveling, scraping, and muffled voices reached Evan's ears. They were trying to flank him, trying to force a way inside from multiple directions. He looked at the German shepherd. Despite her exhaustion, her body radiated confidence, intelligence, and raw courage. She had survived horrors that Evan couldn't begin to imagine, and now, somehow, she was relying on him to help protect her pups. The front door rattled violently. The backup had begun their assault. One figure stepped into the doorway, silhouetted against the snow and darkness, wielding a crowbar. The German shepherd lunged instinctively, snapping at him, forcing him back. Evan's rifle arm shook, adrenaline surging through his veins. "You can't hold them off forever," the man outside shouted, voice low and cold. "Open the door or this ends badly for all of you." Evan swallowed hard. "I'm not opening the door, not tonight." The German shepherd growled, low and steady. She pressed herself over the puppies, ears flat, tail tucked, muscles taut. Evan realized then that she wasn't just protecting them. She was protecting him too. Somehow, she had assessed the threat and chosen him as an ally. The second figure appeared at the side window. He raised a crowbar, prying at the frame. Snow and shards of wood scattered across the floor as the window gave way slightly. The German shepherd snapped, teeth flashing, claws digging into the wooden floor. She lunged toward the intruder, forcing him to retreat. Evan's pulse raced. "Get back," he shouted, raising the rifle, though he knew it was more symbolic than a real threat. He had no idea how many were outside, no idea what weapons they carried. All he had was the German shepherd's loyalty and his own determination to protect the pups. The intruders cursed under their breath, regrouping outside. "You can't hide forever," the first man said. "We'll come back stronger. You can't keep her here." The German shepherd growled again, low and guttural. Her body trembled, not from fear, but from anticipation, from readiness to fight. Evan realized she had survived worse than this. She had faced horrors that left scars deeper than anyone could see, and now she was preparing for battle once more. Evan's mind raced. He needed a plan. The small back room offered some cover, but it wasn't secure. The door could be forced. The windows were thin. They were vulnerable, but the pups needed protection and the German shepherd needed him to act. He scanned the room. Old furniture, boxes, and firewood offered some protection. He moved quickly, positioning himself behind a heavy cabinet, the German shepherd at his side, pup safe beneath her. The storm outside masked some sounds, but not all. He could hear the intruders moving, circling, trying to find a weak point. Suddenly, a voice from outside, low and harsh, cut through the storm. "I know she's in there. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Evan's stomach tightened. He had no idea who she was or what this man had planned, but the German shepherd did. Her eyes locked on the door, pupils dilated, every muscle coiled like a spring. She growled again, louder this time, a warning that sent a shiver down Evan's spine. A second crash came from the window. The intruders were trying to force their way inside, and the cabin's flimsy defenses were beginning to fail. Evan's heart raced. The German shepherd pressed herself over the pups, baring teeth at the intruders, refusing to let them near. Then a sudden thought struck Evan. The tracker on her neck, it was still blinking red. Someone was watching, tracking. If he could disable it, maybe he could throw them off, at least for a while. He crouched low, fingers shaking, and reached for the collar. The German shepherd tensed immediately, growling, eyes locking on his hands. Evan whispered urgently, "I need to do this. Trust me." She hesitated, then, with a shiver of tension, allowed him to work. He examined the device, trying to find a way to stop the signal without triggering it further. Each beep, each blink of the red light felt like a countdown, a silent alarm signaling the intruders that they were close. Outside, the intruders were regrouping, footsteps crunching, voices low, commands being exchanged. They were preparing for another assault. Evan's pulse hammered. If they broke in again, he didn't know if he could hold them off, not without help. The German shepherd shifted, nudging him gently with her nose. Her eyes told him, "You're not alone. We fight together." He nodded, taking a deep breath. The storm outside seemed to fade into the background as the reality of the situation hit him fully. Survival depended on him, on the dog, on the tiny pups they were protecting. Then, as if the universe had decided to intervene, a vehicle's headlights cut through the storm. Snow swirled around them, but this time the engine's sound was steady, controlled, deliberate. It wasn't the intruders. It was someone else, someone who might tip the balance. The German shepherd stiffened, ears pricked. She pressed herself over the pups again, eyes blazing. Evan realized that whatever came next, it wasn't just the intruders he had to worry about. Someone else was arriving, someone with knowledge, with power, with intent. Outside, the intruders cursed under their breath, pausing as they noticed the new vehicle. The storm masked their movement, but not their awareness. Evan gripped the rifle tighter. He had no idea who was approaching, or if they were friend or foe. The German shepherd growled low, a warning, and pressed herself closer to the pups. Her eyes flicked toward Evan, then back to the door, then to the window. She had survived worse than this. She had survived horrors beyond imagining, and she was ready to fight again. Evan's pulse raced. The storm, the intruders, the approaching vehicle, it all pressed down on him like a living weight. And yet he knew one thing: he couldn't leave them. Not now, not ever. He steadied himself, rifle ready, eyes scanning every shadow, every flicker of movement. The storm howled. The intruders waited. And inside, a mother and her puppies prepared for the fight of their lives. The storm outside had reached a near-apocalyptic level. Snow whipped against the cabin walls with the force of fists, rattling windows and shaking the thin wooden frame. The wind roared, howled, screamed, a living, breathing predator surrounding the tiny structure in the middle of nowhere. Inside, the cabin had transformed from a simple home into a battlefield. Evan crouched low in the back room, rifle in hand, heart hammering. The German shepherd pressed tightly against his legs, ears flat, eyes blazing with primal intelligence. Her fur was wet, matted, but her thin frame was taut with coiled power. She had survived horrors he couldn't even imagine, and now she was relying on him to help protect her 4 tiny puppies. The intruders outside had regrouped after their failed attempts to force entry. The first man, the one with the cold, controlled voice, muttered to someone outside. Footsteps crunched across the snow. The storm masked the sound somewhat, but Evan could hear the deliberate, measured packing of someone approaching. And then came the headlights, different from before. A vehicle cutting through the storm, slow, careful, headlights piercing the snow in deliberate beams. The engine hummed steadily. Someone was coming. Evan's pulse raced. Friend, foe, he had no way of knowing. The German shepherd stiffened, ears pricked, muscles coiled. She pressed herself protectively over the pups, her low growl vibrating through the wooden floor. Evan's heart clenched. He realized then that she was more than a dog. She was a survivor, a fighter, a guardian, and somehow she had assessed the unknown newcomer before him. The storm masked the crunch of boots, but not completely. The sound grew closer, deliberate and steady. Then, through the swirling snow, a figure emerged. A tall man in a dark coat, badge gleaming faintly under the headlights, face partially obscured by a scarf and hood. "Evan Grant," the man called, voice cutting through the storm, authority and calm but firm. "My name is Agent Callahan. You're safe for the moment, but we don't have much time." Evan's jaw went slack. "Agent, safe, what?" Callahan held up a hand. "Inside, quickly." The German shepherd growled low, eyes darting between Evan and Callahan. She didn't lunge, didn't snap. Yet, but her tension was palpable, muscles coiled like springs. Evan realized she was evaluating this stranger, the same way she had evaluated him when they first met. He backed toward the cabin, rifle still raised, heart pounding. The intruders outside cursed, frustrated by the sudden arrival of another presence. They had been expecting to corner the dog, to retrieve her, and now their control was challenged. Inside the cabin, Evan ushered Callahan into the back room, careful not to expose the puppies. "Who are they?" Evan whispered, nodding toward the shattered door and the German shepherd. Callahan's eyes flicked to the tracker blinking red on the mother dog's collar. "That dog," he said, voice low, tense, "is the reason we're all here. Her name is Hera. She's been through things most humans can't even comprehend. And right now, she's in danger." Evan's pulse hammered. "Hera?" "Yes," Callahan said. "She was part of an illegal breeding and trafficking operation. The tracker on her collar isn't just a GPS device, it's a signal. Whoever sent it knows where she is and they will come for her. They want her back." The German shepherd pressed closer to the pups, ears flat, low growl vibrating. Her eyes never left the back door. Evan realized then that she understood everything Callahan had said in her own way. She had survived the operation. She had escaped. And she knew that if anyone breached this cabin, the puppies and she would be in mortal danger. Evan's hand shook. So, these men outside, they're after her. Callahan nodded grimly. Yes, and they won't stop until they get her. You need to keep her safe no matter what. Evan swallowed hard. I don't know if I can. Callahan cut him off. Yes, you can, she trusts you. Right now that's all that matters. The wind howled and outside the intruders regrouped. The first man's voice, cold and controlled, called out through the storm. We know she's in there. Open the door now or you'll regret it. Hera growled, low and feral. Her teeth glinted in the dim cabin light. She moved closer to Evan, pressing herself against his legs. She wasn't afraid of the intruders. She had faced worse, but she was protective, calculating, ready to strike if necessary. Callahan knelt beside her gently, showing his badge and speaking softly. Easy, Hera. You're safe now, but we have to be quick. Evan looked at him, confused. Quick for what? Reinforcements won't hold them off for long, Callahan said. We have maybe 5-10 minutes before they force their way inside. You need to help me move Hera and her pups to a secure location, somewhere they can't find her. The German shepherd stiffened, growling low. Evan realized she understood the gravity of the situation. She had survived capture before. She had survived betrayal, pain, and cruelty. And now she had to survive again. Callahan motioned toward the back room's small exit, a narrow door leading to a hidden path behind the cabin, partially concealed by fallen logs and snowdrifts. We move through there, he said. I've secured a vehicle in the clearing about a mile from here. Get her out before they breach the cabin. Evan nodded, gripping the German shepherd. The puppies whined softly beneath her, tiny bodies trembling. Hera pressed herself against him, eyes alert, teeth bared, ready for whatever came next. The intruders outside started pounding on the cabin again, voices shouting orders. Footsteps approached from all directions. The storm masked some sounds but not the fury. Callahan whispered urgently, "Move now." Evan picked up the puppies carefully, wrapping them in towels. Hera followed, stepping lightly but alert, scanning every shadow, every sound. Her growl grew louder as they approached the hidden exit. Evan's heart pounded, every instinct screamed danger. Outside, the storm battered them, snow blinding, wind cutting through every layer of clothing. But Hera moved with uncanny precision, instinct guiding her. She darted ahead, stopping only to make sure the pups were safe, that Evan wasn't struggling, that the path was clear. Suddenly the first intruder appeared, shadowy against the snow, crowbar in hand. "Stop them!" he shouted. Hera leapt forward with a snarl, teeth flashing. She lunged at him, forcing him back into the storm. Evan ran, heart hammering, clutching the puppies. Callahan followed closely, gun ready, eyes scanning. The snow swirled, blinding, masking movement. Footsteps approached from another angle, the intruders back up, trying to flank them. Hera spun, low growl vibrating through her body, blocking the path, forcing them to retreat. Evan realized then that Hera wasn't just a dog. She was a guardian, a fighter, and somehow she had trained him to survive alongside her. Callahan shouted, "Keep moving, the vehicle is just ahead." The storm intensified and the path disappeared beneath swirling snow. But Hera never faltered, instinct guiding her, muscles coiled, eyes sharp. The intruders cursed, voices lost in the wind, their pursuit hampered by the blizzard and Hera's ferocity. Finally, through the swirling white, headlights emerged in the distance, Callahan's secured vehicle. The intruders were far behind, slowed by the storm and Hera's relentless defense. Evan's lungs burned as they ran, the puppies safe beneath Hera's watchful eye. She pressed herself over them, growling low, eyes never leaving the approaching shadows of danger. Callahan reached the vehicle first, opening the door. "Get in," he shouted. Evan lifted Hera gently, placing her inside first. She hesitated for a moment, looking back at the snow-covered cabin, growling softly before settling next to her pups. Evan climbed in, heart racing, finally feeling a sliver of relief. The The storm still raged outside. The intruders were out there, somewhere, waiting, plotting, patient. But for now, Hera and her pups were safe, protected by the bond she had chosen with Evan and the arrival of someone who understood the danger. Callahan closed the door, engine roaring to life. The headlights cut through the storm, snow flying in sheets. As they drove, Evan looked at Hera, her eyes meeting his, intelligence shining through exhaustion. He realized the truth. She had survived horrors beyond imagination, and now, together, they had survived another night. But the danger was far from over. The intruders were still out there, and Hera's past was a shadow looming over them all. Evan gripped the seat, watching the storm rage outside. Hera pressed her head against him, puppies nestled beneath her, and in that moment he knew one thing for certain: survival wasn't over. Not yet. And whatever came next, they would face it together. The vehicle barreled through the blizzard, headlights slicing through the white haze as snow swirled around them in a furious dance. Evan gripped the edge of the seat, eyes darting between Hera, who pressed herself over her 4 tiny puppies, and Agent Callahan, who drove with a grim determination, eyes fixed on the road ahead. The storm's roar was deafening, but inside the vehicle, silence held a tense weight, a pause before the inevitable confrontation. Evan's mind raced. They had survived the initial assault, evaded the intruders, but he knew better than to believe the danger was gone. Whoever had sent the first man and the backup was organized, patient, and relentless. They weren't just after a dog. They were after something Hera represented, something tied to the horrors she had survived. Callahan finally spoke, breaking the taut silence. "Evan, listen. Hera's past isn't just tragic, it's pivotal. The operation she escaped from, it was one of the worst we've seen. Illegal breeding rings, organized trafficking, and experimental training meant to create aggressive guard animals. Hera was one of the few that survived intact, and she carries knowledge of the entire network. That tracker, it wasn't just a GPS device. It's evidence, proof that the network is still active. Whoever is chasing her now wants to erase that evidence, and they won't stop until they do." Evan's stomach dropped. So these men, they're criminals, and she's evidence. Callahan nodded. "Exactly, and that's why you're in danger too. You've been helping her survive. That makes you a target as well." Hera's low growl rumbled in the back of the vehicle. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, flicked toward the storm outside the windows, ears pricked, muscles taut. Evan felt a shiver run down his spine. She knew. She understood the stakes better than he ever could. Suddenly, through the howling wind, headlights appeared in the distance, faster, closer. Another vehicle. Smaller, faster, moving with deadly precision. The intruders had found them. Callahan cursed under his breath. "They've tracked us. Get ready, Evan. We can't outrun them in this storm. We have to make a stand." Evan's heart raced. He had a rifle, a vehicle, and Hera, the fiercest, most intelligent dog he had ever met. That was it. But the thought of losing her or the pups made his stomach knot. The first intruder emerged from the vehicle, crowbar in hand. Behind him, more figures poured from the snow-covered van, silhouettes in the storm. They moved with coordination as if trained. Hera growled low, pressing herself over her pups. Evan realized she wasn't just protecting them. She was assessing the threat, preparing to strike with surgical precision. Callahan parked the vehicle behind a cluster of fallen trees, using the debris as cover. "Hera," he whispered urgently, "they're coming for you. Remember what you survived. Protect them. Protect yourself." Hera's ears twitched. She rose slightly, head high, teeth bared. Then, with an almost imperceptible nod, she leapt from the vehicle. Evan instinctively followed, keeping close, rifle at the ready. The storm hammered against them, snow blinding, wind cutting like knives. The intruders approached, shouting, weapons drawn. Their leader, the first man, stepped forward, eyes cold, calculating. "Give her to us," he shouted over the wind. "She's ours. You don't understand what she carries." Hera lunged, teeth flashed. She moved faster than Evan thought possible, intercepting the man before he could reach her. She snapped, forcing him back, then pivoted, circling the group, growling, keeping them at bay. Evan's pulse raced. He realized in that moment that Hera wasn't just fighting for survival, she was orchestrating it. Every step, every movement was strategic. She had learned, adapted, and now she was leading them. Callahan fired a warning shot, aiming at the ground near the intruder's feet. "Back off," he shouted. But the storm swallowed the sound and the men advanced, relentless. Evan ran alongside Hera, his rifle trained, eyes scanning for weakness. The pups were safe inside the vehicle, hidden under blankets. He could hear their soft whimpers, reminding him of what was at stake. Then came the first real confrontation. The intruders reached the vehicle, crowbars swung. Snow sprayed into the air, but Hera met them head-on, snapping, lunging, forcing them back into the storm. Evan realized the dog's intelligence was extraordinary. She wasn't just reacting, she was predicting, anticipating, countering. Callahan moved alongside Evan, gun raised. "Keep her covered, don't let them near her." The storm intensified, reducing visibility to almost nothing. The intruders became shadowy figures, but Hera moved like a predator in daylight. She struck again and again, forcing them to retreat, growl by growl, bite by calculated bite. Then, amidst the chaos, the truth came out. One of the intruders, pinned back by Hera's teeth, shouted over the wind, "You don't know what she's carrying, she's proof. She's the key. If we lose her, the whole network is exposed." Evan froze, realization dawning. Hera wasn't just surviving for her own sake. She held evidence of a massive criminal operation. Her memory, her instincts, her past experiences. Somehow, she was a living record of atrocities. Callahan's eyes narrowed. "Exactly. That's why she had to survive, that's why you've been targeted, and that's why they won't stop unless they're stopped." The first man tried to flank Hera again. She reacted instantly, leaping high, teeth flashing, claws digging into snow and ice. Evan fired his rifle at the ground near the man, sending him stumbling back. The storm swallowed his curse. Then from the swirling white, Callahan fired 2 precise shots, hitting the ground near the intruder's feet. "Retreat! Now!" he shouted. For a moment, chaos reigned. Snow, wind, shouting, growling, snapping teeth. But slowly the intruders began to retreat, forced back by Hera's ferocity and the tactical precision of Callahan and Evan. Evan finally exhaled, heart racing, snow plastered to his face and clothes. Hera returned to the vehicle, pressing herself over the pups, panting but victorious. Her eyes met Evan, and for a moment he saw the depth of what she had survived: fear, pain, cruelty, and yet unwavering courage. Callahan approached, checking the tracker on her neck. "We need to get her out of here," he said. "The network will regroup. We've only won a battle, not the war." Evan nodded, lifting Hera gently. The pups squirmed beneath her, tiny bodies trembling but safe. The storm was relentless, but for the first time in hours, Evan felt a glimmer of hope. As they drove away, leaving the intruders in the swirling snow, Callahan spoke quietly. "Hera's past isn't something anyone can undo, but with her alive, the evidence survives. And with you helping, Evan, maybe justice can be done." Evan looked down at Hera, the mother dog who had survived hell itself, protecting her family and somehow choosing to trust him. Her eyes met his, and he felt the unspoken bond: survivor, guardian, fighter, and ally. The storm raged outside, but inside the vehicle there was a fragile peace. For now. Evan realized then that survival wasn't just about fleeing danger. It was about standing firm, protecting the vulnerable and facing horrors that others couldn't comprehend. And Hera, with her fierce intelligence, loyalty, and courage, had taught him that. The snowstorm continued to rage, but for the first time, Evan felt they could make it through. Hera pressed her head against him, pup safe beneath her, and he knew that whatever came next, they would face it together, survivors against a world that had tried to break them. Justice wasn't over, danger wasn't gone, but Hera and her family were alive, and sometimes survival itself was the greatest victory. The storm howled outside, relentless and unforgiving. But inside, a mother, her pups, and a man who had chosen to protect them rode together into the night, unbroken, unbowed, and ready for whatever the world dared to throw next.